Step 1. We'll go ahead and design our workflow using Visual Paradigm's Business Process Architect. Our case study today will be port authorities. The situation is this. We are the authority at a port. We unload cargo, we inspection cargo, we ship the cargo to its final destination by surface. Tariffs will be calculated. Tariffs are aranceles, taxes to be applied to each container, to each product, based on its specifications, its SKU codes, and its unitary prices, as well as using government regulations, which are complex rules, which we will not deal with today because they are too complex to program in a fixed amount of time. However, we will do a simple calculation of those taxes using a simple percentage basis. Once these taxes, tariffs are done with, we will send them back to the ship, to the carrier, for the client or the carrier per se to comply with government regulations and pay the tariffs. Thus, we have two messages. From the point of view of the port authority, the first message will be an input message, which will be a cargo specification, which will be handled by the port authority. The output message will be the tariffs per se. Thus, our web service will be a synchronous web service which will have two messages, an input message and an output message. So using VPA, we will go ahead and start the specification. We'll use two pools. Our first pool will be the port authority. Our second pool will be the carrier. Now remember, the carrier is the ship. The port authority will be on wait, waiting for the carrier to arrive. This event is a timer event, so we specify it as a timer trigger. When the port authority receives cargo specs, it proceeds to compute tariffs. Once it has finished, that is, the tariffs are computed, it will go ahead and resend the tariffs along with other information to the carrier. With that, the port authority is done. That is, tariffs have been sent. These messages will be sent to the carrier and received from the carrier. The events will be messages as a result. Now, from the point of view of the carrier, we will start with an event in which we specify that the carrier has actually arrived at port. Once again, this will be a message. Afterwards, the carrier will proceed to send the cargo notification over to the port authority. And this is the first place where we have two entities to handle a message. The message will be described by a message flow in BPMN. The message flow from the carrier to the port authority. This message will have a name. It will be part of a web service. For now, we will say this is cargo notification. This may change later on when we code the actual web service in Java. After the carrier has sent the cargo notification, it waits for tariffs. Now the tariffs will be waited upon using a timer trigger. Once the tariffs are received, they will be handled over by the ship's staff and the process will be done with. Tariffs then will be handled, and this will be represented by a message trigger. Thus we have a second round of entities to communicate with a message. This message will be a message flow once again. The response from the port authority to the carrier. For now we will say this message is called tariffs. As a result, we now know that we have two entities, two lanes. These lanes are the port authority and the carrier. The port authority starts by waiting for a carrier to arrive. Once it receives the tariffs from the carrier, the ship, it goes ahead and computes the tariffs. When those tariffs are computed, it goes ahead and sends the tariffs over to the carrier. Conversely, the carrier arrives at port, sends cargo notifications over to the port authority, waits for the tariffs to be computed, receives the tariffs, and is over with. Our web service host will be the port authority, so the messages will be input and output from the point of view of the port authority. That is, cargo notification will be an input message to the port authority, and tariffs will be an output message from the port authority to the carrier. As a final specification, we will add a data object. Data objects correspond to an abstraction that tries to convey whatever data is being transported to and from entities. The data will be cargo specs and tariffs. This will be clearer later on when we do the actual Java coding. For now, it suffices to say that these cargo specs and tariffs are associated to the procedure where tariffs are computed. It means that the process consults the data. That data will also be used when sending the tariffs, and it will also be used by the consuming entity that receives the tariffs. So now we have three associations. Association number one means that the port authority reads cargo specs and knows the tariffs, the percentages, or the business rules to apply when computing the tariffs. Association number two means that this document, which has been already filled out with tariffs and other data from a previous computing task, will be sent over to the carrier using the second message. Association number three specifies that the consuming entity, that is the received tariffs on the carrier, will also be able to witness, to review the same data that was produced by the port authority. As a result, we have specified our web service. Once again, the web service is composed of two messages, a cargo notification and a tariffs message. This concludes our initial design of our workflow process using BPMN.